There's a funny binary thing with crypto ecosystems. Either the community is allowed to make choices to guide its own fate, or it isn't. If it's the second thing, it's really not a crypto ecosystem, at least not a decentralized one. This encompasses a lot of different things. Is validation of the chain permissionless? Yes or no? Was the community allowed to acquire the lion's share of the coins? Yes or no? Is the creation and transacting of new assets in the ecosystem permissionless? Yes or no? To us in Cardano, these sound like minimum threshold rights that should be afforded to any crypto user. But it turns out that some of our competitors find their ambitions to be more consistent with the way big tech has treated us for years. They're going to tell their users what's good for them, whether they like it or not. Ready? Let's go. Today, we're going to discuss Binance's recent announcement about auto conversion of user stablecoins. That's kind of a nice way of putting it. Auto conversion, a brand new feature from Pavia, some new info on the huge advantages we'll get from Vasil, a familiar face at IOG making an interesting move, and a brand new ability to short NFTs in Cardano. If you saw this image and immediately thought to yourself, actually, I wouldn't mind it if Thor's Hammer Mjolnir was part of my breakfast ritual. Or if you're finding value in these videos each weekday, please consider delegating to the Army of Spies stake pool, ticker AOS. Come on over if you're looking for a stake pool, and especially if you're currently staking with a centralized exchange, come on over to the Army of Spies stake pool. I think it's because we're in crypto winter that we're starting to see some of the bigger crypto institutions flexing their muscles a little bit on their users. And they're doing some of the same things that big tech has done to us for years and years and years. All the things that we hate that big tech does to us, including not trusting us to make decisions for ourselves. We won't get into that big discussion. There's a huge discussion, obviously, around social media and what big tech allows us to see and not see. We're not going to talk about that today because this is a crypto podcast. But we are going to talk about this article, and it's in Gizmodo. So this is a big mainstream publication. This isn't some small crypto website. And here's the way they characterize this. Binance will transform user stablecoins to its own brand of coin, and they're not asking first. The move seems to show Binance wants to corner a piece of the stablecoin market, but rival crypto companies warned of market conduct questions. They said in a few weeks' time, stablecoin holders on Binance will find their crypto doesn't carry the same name or the same price as it had previously. The exchange effectively told its users it'll be digging its long, thin fingers into each of their wallets. That is like the most pejorative way they could have possibly put this. I don't know if that's a reference to CZ being a slender man or what, but digging its long, thin fingers. You could tell whoever wrote this article, not a fan of Binance. Taking out their old crypto and replacing it with their own store brand version of stablecoin. Binance, the world's most popular crypto exchange, told its users late Monday it would convert all USDC stablecoins, the second most popular stablecoins in the world, along with smaller stablecoins Pax Dollar and True USD, into its own brand of stablecoin, Binance USD. I've said many times on this channel that I actually like CZ as a personality in crypto. When he's just sort of opining generally on crypto, either crypto philosophy or goings on in crypto, I agree with a lot of what he says. But of course, I don't agree with sort of some of the centralized elements in the broader Binance ecosystem. But when I think about it, no matter what, we're going to have centralized ecosystems in crypto. Those are going to exist unless somehow they become very impractical from a regulatory perspective. Those are going to exist, barring regulation that makes them impractical, to run. They're going to exist in crypto. And if we're going to have them, I don't mind a guy like CZ being the one running them. I'm better CZ than some gigantic faceless Wall Street bank that kind of waltzes in and is like, hey, check out our centralized exchange. You're now trading on, JP Binance, JP Binance Morgan. I'd rather have CZ running something like this than Wall Street. I know some of you are jumping out of your chairs right now and reciting the list of large traditional financial institutions that have their tentacles in a whole bunch of different crypto enterprises. I know, they're all up in a lot of the, especially it seems like the crypto institutions that are heavily on the Ethereum EVM side, account balance side of things. I know that's the case already. But it's nice that someone who is a lot more crypto native is still running the biggest centralized exchange in crypto. Here we have here we have him here we have Binance. We'll say Binance. Here we have Binance doing something again though that's pretty centralized that I can't, of course I can't get on board with. They say fellow Binanceans. I didn't even know they called themselves Binanceans. Fellow Binanceans, in order to enhance liquidity and capital efficiency for users, Binance is introducing BUSD auto conversion for users' existing balances and new deposits of USDC, USDP, and TUSD stablecoins at a 1-to-1 ratio. So auto conversion is a very polite and nice way of, it seems like a very polite and nice way of saying you're not going to get to keep your USDC and USDP and TUSD. We're going to turn it into BUSD, and it sounds like kind of against your will. Looks like this is going to go into effect at the end of the month. Users will trade with a consolidated BUSD balance on the Binance platform that reflects their balances of these 4 stablecoins post-conversion. This will not affect users' choice of withdrawal. Users will continue to be able to withdraw funds in any of those stablecoins. For more information, they've got an FAQ. Of course, at first glance, this seems like a very self-serving thing. Hey, we've got a captive audience. Why don't we force them to use our stablecoin, at least while they're on our platform? But Paxos has a little bit different perspective on this. Paxos says Binance has made a positive step for the safety of its customers by pushing to support primarily BUSD. Unlike competing stablecoins, BUSD is regulated by the New York Division of Financial Services, which sets rules and monitors compliance with those rules. Only regulated stablecoins like BUSD and USDP from Paxos do this, setting us apart from stablecoins issued by MTLs that have no oversight of reserves or governance. Reserves are held by a bankruptcy remote trust. BUSD reserves are held by a bankruptcy remote trust, Paxos, conveniently them, which offers great consumer protection, setting it apart from all MTL issued stablecoins. So this is interesting. So while it seemed like the Binance press release on this just mentioned the efficiency of accounting for everything in BUSD on the platform, it looks like Paxos is citing some kind of customer safety because of the regulation by the state of New York. There have been prognostications of different stablecoin apocalypses for years and years and years. Ever since the appearance of Tether, people have been predicting the meltdown of various stablecoins and an eventual regulatory culling of the stablecoin scene. So, I mean, I think these kinds of restrictions on what stablecoins can be used by very, very large institutions, used on the platform of very large institutions like Binance, this is kind of predictable. But man, it really feels different when the platform is telling you what assets you're allowed to hold and what assets you're not. This is very, very different from an ecosystem like Bitcoin or Ethereum or Cardano. In those ecosystems, everything's kind of permissionless. It's like, do you want to validate the chain? Good. You don't have to ask anybody. Just go through the steps and you can do it. You can mine on Bitcoin. You can mine on Ethereum. You'll be able to start a stake pool on Ethereum if you're rich. On Ethereum or in Cardano, you can just start a stake pool. It's all permissionless. And you can also create any asset you want in Cardano. You can create a Cardano native asset corresponding to whatever you like. Distribute it how you like. There's nobody out there who's going to stop you from creating this asset and distributing it. Maybe regulators, maybe the SEC might have a problem with it, depending on what you do if you try to sell it or something. But now we're starting to see some of the bigger centralized entities doing things like this. It's not just a listing restriction, because they've always decided what assets they're going to list and what assets are not. But this is a decision that while you're on our platform, you're only going to use our asset. This is pretty different. It feels a lot more like big tech. Big tech for years telling us, we don't actually trust you to let you see everything. We're going to decide what you can see. This is Binance deciding what assets you're allowed to use while you're on the platform. I think a lot of people are probably thankful that they're allowing you to exit the platform and withdraw whatever other stablecoin you want. But these kinds of things generally happen step by step. Right now, it's you can't use it while you're on our platform, but in the future, who knows? It might even become more restrictive. There's a massive difference between these centralized platforms and the decentralized platforms. In the centralized platforms, there's somebody who can arbitrarily make a decision like this. In the decentralized platforms, ideally, that person doesn't really exist. So you don't have to worry about their arbitrary decisions because they don't exist. But in the centralized platforms, even though we've been pretty lucky, I think in a lot of cases in crypto, we've been pretty lucky. And the decisions some of these centralized platforms have made so far have been, kind of roughly consistent with the philosophy of crypto, but that person does exist in these centralized platforms. And in the future, you don't know what arbitrary decisions they're going to make about what you're allowed to do in their centralized ecosystem. Pavia's got some news for us. As per our roadmap, we are testing portals, but more importantly, token gating. Portal usage only when the user holds a certain asset. The clip below is from testing and not indicative of the in-game portals. They are far nicer. This is kind of interesting, and it's true. Pavia has been talking about portals from the very earliest days that I can remember. They've always had this idea about portals. They bought some parcels, one or more parcels in Decentraland, and they've been talking about portals for a long time. I still don't quite know how these portals are going to work. I mean, is there going to be some utility to the portal beyond just opening up a new tab and going over to Decentraland or wherever you're portaling to? And how does if there are portals like that between metaverses, how is the token gating going to work? I don't know how the token gating would work in that case. But if there are portals to special places that are a part of the Pavia ecosystem, and you could have gated portals, that would be interesting. If there was a token you could purchase that would allow you to go through the portal and end up in this special place in Pavia, then I think things become really interesting. But I'm curious to see how all this portaling talk actually ends up when things are up and running in Pavia. People have been saying it for a while, but it looks like the performance upgrade with Vasil is not just significant, it's huge. Charles posted, "This is an example of the power of Vasil that's coming this month. The new features dramatically improve many different dApps and enable new dApps like JED to be deployed on Cardano. This is just the beginning. EUTXO and Plutus are the gifts that keep on giving." The table below summarizes the improvements. And here we can see an improvement in transaction fees of 77% and an improvement in transaction size of 92%. These aren't just significant improvements. If it was a 10% improvement, a lot of other blockchains would be stoked. They'd be like, this is a fantastic upgrade. We're getting 10% improvement. But in Cardano, they're talking about 77%, 92% improvements. This isn't just a little bit of improvement. This is a giant leap forward in terms of performance on the chain. We also got this news from IOG NFT man Joshua Miller. Today is the day. My big news is that I have left IOG to join CWorld as VP of Partnerships. CWorld is a joint venture between IOG and Wave Financial that specifically focuses on Web3. You probably remember that Wave Financial is the entity that is partnered with IOG on the C Fund. Down below here, he says, "We will be launching CWorld at Rare Bloom event alongside IOHK and Lace.io. We will be digging into exactly what CWorld is. You've probably heard of C Fund, the VC arm, but this is entirely different." And down below, he specifies that CWorld will be focused on Cardano Web3. So it won't just be a general entity doing Web3, mainly in Ethereum or something like that. It'll actually be focused on Cardano Web3. So this will be interesting to see exactly what CWorld's going to be. Here's something very interesting for the Cardano NFT space. Gucci.io says, hello world. Been a crazy couple of years in the NFT space. Sure enough, the market filled every niche the incentives allowed for, hoping for another kind of space to evolve. We're introducing a new incentive, a short the floor smart contract for Cardano NFTs. And down below here, feeling bearish on a project, set your collateral should be more than the current floor, duration from time of acceptance, fee percentage, and policy ID. When someone accepts, you will get the NFT they offered. Go sell it on your favorite platform. Wait for the floor of that policy ID to fall, buy any NFT from the policy ID and close your contract to reclaim your collateral. The difference between number 2 and number 4 is your profit. If you've ever shorted anything, you'll recognize this as the standard shorting procedure. You basically borrow an asset from someone with a promise to give them the same asset back. You then go sell it, wait for the price to drop, you buy it at the lower price, pocket the difference, and return them that asset that you borrowed from them. That's how you accomplish a short. The interesting thing here is we normally think about shorts as being shorts of fungible assets, you know, securities, one share of Tesla is equal to one share of Tesla. Nobody cares. With NFTs, it's a little bit different because the whole thing with NFTs is they're non-fungible. Each NFT is supposed to be individual and unique. But here they did something really smart. They anchored it to the floor value. So if you're engaging this trade either on the lender or the borrower side, the shorter or the other side, you're kind of saying, okay, we're going to pretend like these are fungible based on the floor price. So it would make sense if you're the lender. It would make sense, to do this in some cases, only if you don't care about that individual NFT. Obviously, you couldn't, if the shorter successfully accomplishes their short, you're not going to get back the same NFT because they're just going to go back to the secondary floor, buy at that floor, and give you another NFT at that floor price. But really smart way to accomplish shorting of non-fungible assets in the same way really we're used to doing it with fungible assets. What kind of effect will this have on the secondary markets? Seems like it'll definitely have some kind of an effect. Whenever you introduce shorting into a market that's never had it before, things tend to happen. So this will be interesting to see how this goes in the Cardano NFT market. I hope you're having a great week, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.